Dynamite Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time Show. We're here for Championship Week. After a little bit of a break there, work got crazy. World Cup started, which limited our time. Be sure that our World Cup show is still out there. Probably previewing the groups isn't worth all that much anymore, but we'll be back with a World Cup show from the knockout stages. But that got in there. Families started to come over and take over households for Thanksgiving, so it made it a little difficult to work in a college football show. And nonetheless, the last couple of weeks for both of us, you're probably better off not having our picks. Anyway, certainly this last week, the week 11, the last week we had picks, it was not a pretty week for either of us. I lost 1,348, and somehow you had your worst week of the whole season.
With the smallest bankroll of the whole season.
With the smallest bankroll, and it's hard to explain, I will say, because you at least know what you're talking about, but somehow no game has literally gone your way this year.
I'm going back to the drawing book on a formula for next season. This season's been fairly bad to me, and we'll get back on track next year and hopefully come out a little bit better, but still fun.
Yeah, still fun, and we get to look at the futures next week, preview, go over our futures, go over our picks and see how we did, maybe preview the bowl season a little bit and just go over that. But this week, Championship Week, I will say I'm not as excited usually as I have been. I don't know if it's just because it's strictly Championship Week. In the years past when team conferences didn't have championship games, this was a little bit of a bigger week. It's down to a small slate of games, and honestly, I just these championship games didn't entice me as much as they usually do. I'm not all that interested. I'm more interested in what USA and Netherlands is going to do on Saturday than what's going down on the championship week. What'd you make of this championship week slate?
Yeah, like you said, I'm not too excited. I mean, other than a little bit of playoff implications with the Pac-12 and the Big 12. There's not a whole lot going on. Other conferences, you've got double-digit spreads, so not too exciting. I think there's a couple picks I like. We've got them here, but like you said, I think the screen won Saturday. Yeah, USA Netherlands. So it's kind of sad. This is our football show, but I think that's what it's kind of of become on these championship weeks. It's with the 14 playoff, you already kind of know. It's
going to be 12 in 2 years too.
Yeah.
So
then maybe the championship games will mean a little more then because winners automatically get in. But the playoff field's been almost set for 2 weeks now, so it's kind of making a little lackluster.
Yeah, all right. Let's break these down. We're going to start out in Conference USA, where two teams we've really made us money this year, and we've been very heavy on betting on both sides. Probably had to pull back from UT San Antonio a little bit there late because their spread started to get bloated, but we've definitely used North Texas, especially early in midseason when I don't think anybody knew quite how good and explosive offensively they were. But North Texas goes to UT San Antonio, rematch of a game about 3-4 weeks ago where UT San Antonio just grinded it out. I think it was 33-27, 30-27, something in that range, 31-27. It's not at UT San Antonio's home, but it is being played in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. What do you make of this North Texas UT San Antonio matchup?
Yeah, like you said, we've been on this North Texas team for a while. I think we actually got on the train with them towards the end of last season, making money on them, and then this year we got some high spreads with them early, and it's gotten a little bit less favorable, kind of along with UTSA as both of these teams kind of emerged. The value wasn't there as much, but I do think UTSA is the better team here, but I do like the way North Texas has been playing defense. Towards the end of the season, we saw them giving up, 40 points and winning games early on, but now they're starting to slow teams down a little bit, and they still have their explosive offense. So I like both these teams. This is actually probably one of the games I'm more excited about. I think it should be a good one, but I thought the spread was a little too large to take to UTSA, so I didn't pick a side in this one.
Yeah, I didn't have a side. The one thing I did, and I talked to you about it a little bit, I was going to look in-game because UT San Antonio has had a lot of trouble closing out these games. You look if North Texas gets down a lot, the thing they do best is hit those big passing explosive plays. So maybe if UT San Antonio is up a certain amount, get in live, hit that North Texas, see if they can close that gap. That's a little bit how the first game played out as well, where UT San Antonio got up, North Texas hit a couple plays there, and was able to close that gap towards the end, and then, had the ball trying to drive down to win that game. So nothing for me in this one. I just thought the 8.5 was a little bit too much, but I didn't want to really press it on North Texas at the plus 8.5, just because that UAB game's still in my mind where they didn't play great defense in that one, and their explosive plays got shut down. So, and UT San Antonio, much like UAB, more than capable of running the ball. Yeah. And UAB ran all over them. UT San Antonio ran all over them in the first one, but they gave up those explosive plays. So I'm all live in game. See how this plays out. Maybe get North Texas in that fourth quarter to close the gap a little bit if they're behind. So that's what I have in that one, but nothing I can firm say this is my pick here. But you do have a play in this one, though.
Yeah, I've got a number I really like in this one, and it's the points total. I like the under 69.5. I've got $300 on that. Last I looked, it moved over 70. The last time these two teams played a couple weeks ago, it didn't even get over 60. I think it being a conference championship game, they're going to play a little tighter, and like you said, UTSA is going to run the ball, so I think the clock's going to be moving. We're going to see some conservative offense, maybe some big explosive plays from North Texas, but not enough to get this over 70, I don't think. So I like the under here.
The other thing you might be able to do if the game plays out like I think where UT San Antonio gets up, 24-7, 27, gets into that fourth quarter, you can probably try to middle it where you take that, under 69.5, then that thing drops maybe to like 55, and you think maybe that fourth quarter gets into explosive trading points contrast, and you can maybe get that middle there and hit, 2 bets for 1 on that thing with no, sort of cost on the loss. Those are things to think about in game. It's a little too hard to sort of give you live bets before the game starts because there's no telling really how this thing's going to play out. I can just give you what's sort of in my head and how I'm looking at it going into it. But I do like that 69.5. I think that's a decent play on the under there. Pac-12 championship game played tonight, Friday night. Probably barely get this out before you see what happens there. But nonetheless, Utah-USC rematch of, Utah beating USC there in the closing minutes of that game. We're on a little bit different tracks here. You're on USC minus 2.5. I'm on Utah plus 2.5. I think you could make probably pretty good arguments on either side of this. But how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about having to beat the same team twice in a year, especially a talented team like USC. So that's why I'm leaning Trojans here. And just, the way Caleb Williams has really kind of come into this offense this last month, they've always had the offense there, but he's really kind of looking like a leader now and probably going to win the Heisman Trophy in a couple, I guess, next week or so. But yeah,
does anybody care?
Yeah, I think USC they know what they have to do. They win this game, they're in the playoff. I think they're going to take care of business. I like that number at the 2.5. I got $300 on it, but once you get over 3, it starts to get a little iffy. But Utah beat them early, but like I said, it was right at the very end. USC had that game and kind of blew it. So I think they're going to get this one.
Yeah, I'm on the other end. I sort of see it similar where, USC might get out in front, but they've had trouble holding leads all season long. They've been a little bit better here towards the end, but I think that, plus I think Utah sort of has a little thing over USC. I think Utah's defense has improved as this season's gone on late, so I think they can keep this game, upper 20s, low 30s, which would favor Utah where they don't get in a total just shootout, because that definitely benefits USC. That's not really, Utah can play that way. They've played that way most of the year, but I think Kyle Whittingham's DNA, just wants it to be, at least for this team, in the high 20s, low 30s. I think he can get it there. That's why I'm going to take the plus on this one, 2.5. But like you mentioned, I'd wait till game time because I think money's going to come pouring in on USC. So you're better off sort of waiting and see how high that number gets. You might. I'm not a huge person who buys points, but you might want to buy it into that key on 3. Just to have that, but it's sort of dealer's choice on that. I've never been a person who loves giving up odds for points because then it sort of gets in. If you think they're going to cover 2.5, why do you need to buy points? If you think the game's going to literally be that close, so it's just one of those things. But key number, I would I understand that sitting on 3, get a push instead of a loss and have a bad feeling, for a week because the game went 3 instead of 2.5. But on different sides on this one, this is a pretty low play for me this week, but 250 on Utah for me in this one. One we're on the same page in, the MAC championship game here. Backup quarterbacks galore in this one. Ohio has had their backup in, I think, 2 games, maybe 1 game. I can't remember when he came in there, but they looked pretty solid. Yep. I can't say the same for Toledo, and honestly, I don't quite know what quarterback's going to play. Both of them played in the game over the weekend. Neither of them looked good or healthy, and the third one is a guy who's never started a game, who's a walk-on. That's not what you want going into a championship game. I just thought, I know the game didn't mean anything, but I thought Toledo looked really, really poor, last week, and they've sort of limped into this championship game, and I just think Ohio's been the most consistent team in the MAC. I don't think they have as high a ceiling as a couple of those teams in Buffalo, maybe even Toledo if their offense is clicking, and even Bowling Green, who's shown that they're capable of beating a handful of top-tier teams. I think they've come and bitten you a couple of times this season. But I think they're just the most consistent team in the MAC, and you know what you're getting. So I think getting +3 in this one is just a really, really nice. I'm all over Ohio in this one, +3.
Yeah, I think the wrong team is favored in this one. I just look at the the ups and downs that Toledo's had, their quarterback situation, and then just the consistency that Ohio brings, like you said. So I love getting the points here. I think a money line here paired with something else could build a pretty good parlay. But I just think the Bobcats have been the better team, and I think their surrounding cast, they may not have all the weapons that Toledo has, but like you said, some of their weapons are injured. But as a whole and defensively, I think they're going to be able to get it done. Probably win outright. Like I said, I think a money line play wouldn't be bad here, but take the 3. You should be good.
Yeah, there are also rumblings that the Toledo coach might get fired. Their standard is a little bit higher than most of the teams in the MAC. I know they got to the championship game, but after last year's disappointing season, and I guess since you're in the championship game, you can sort of call this season a success, but I really thought they've sort of underachieved. I was expecting more a 9-8 win team, and not this sort of. They seem to beat up on the really, really weak teams, but can't win. I think that away game to San Jose State, second or third week in the season where they got killed, sort of showed where their real level is amongst sort of smaller school teams. So I wonder if that comes into play a little bit too. Let's move on to the Big 12 championship game. I think this is one of the interesting ones. I'm curious to watch this one because the first game was a pretty good game. I enjoy watching both these teams play. TCU favored by 2.5 here. We're on different sides of this. I think TCU is going to handle the pressure. I think that's where this goes. Can TCU sort of handle the pressure of this game? When they're in, I think they're a little bit better than Kansas State, but, Kansas State defensively, I guess occasionally they have the bad half, but they really, I think if you went for teams so far this year, K-State's defense has been one of the most impressive in college football.
Yeah, great defense and probably one of the best coached college teams out there. I love who they brought in here, and he's got things rolling quick. And I think this is going to be. I had USC handling the pressure. I think TCU is going to fold a little bit. You think they're going to handle it. I'm going to go the other way. I think this is going to be the team that opens up the spot for Ohio State to get into the playoffs. I just the way TCU's gone down against other opponents. Yeah, I know they've maybe fixed that in the last couple weeks with Texas and such. But I think if they get down on Kansas State again here, they will not come back in this situation. So Kansas State. It'll be interesting to see if they can get their offense rolling. TCU's defense has been playing better as of late, so I think it's going to be a really exciting game.
Yeah, I think this one's probably the most, interesting on championship week because I think these two teams are about at the same level, and we'll see how TCU handles this pressure. It probably really depends on the start. If they can get off to a good start, they probably can roll in this game, but I think if this game remains close, then you just start to feel it and build it as it gets later and later. And you think you're sort of throwing away hopes and dreams, though, honestly, you look at it, I think TCU has had a more than successful season, but once it's there, then you want to seize the opportunity because you don't know quite when it's going to come again, if it ever comes again. But should be an interesting one. I'm on TCU, -2.5. I got 750 on that one. I know you got the K-State.
Yeah, I just got $100 on them. Small play. But my bankroll's not quite as large as yours at the moment.
That's correct. We'll see if I can close out this year and hit a couple of my big bets. It's been a bad couple of weeks here on the big bets. It might hold form where I win all my lower level bets and lose all the ones that I have actual money on. But nonetheless, TCU for me, -2.5. K-State for you, plus the 2.5. Let's go to the Sun Belt game. This one I know. I had in my futures bet. I thought Troy would get there, and it's actually been really impressive after, just melting in that Appy State game and giving up that Hail Mary. They probably should have ran through the Sun Belt undefeated. Coastal Carolina, I think it's been a successful season, but, their defensive issues are still there. I haven't thought the offense has played as well the last couple weeks of the season, and it's just this spread seems a little big. I think if you gave me 6.5, I'd be all on Troy, but I can't get there on the 8.5, so I'm a pass on this one.
Yeah, I think this was a stay away. I like you, I have a lean towards Troy. I think they'll win this game, but 8.5 is just kind of right on that line that they could be up 2 touchdowns, give up a late score.
It's a very scary backdoor number.
So I'm just staying away from this one, but I do like Troy to win.
Yeah, I can't advocate buying a 1.5 down. If you're doing that, you should probably just take Coastal Carolina. So neither of us are big in this one. It'll be interesting to see if Troy can complete this and win the Sun Belt, or Coastal Carolina sort of comes to play. I'm also very curious if the Coastal Carolina coach sticks around. It's been a nice progression for Coastal Carolina. He's built this into this, sort of 4 or 5 year window, and it's probably time to go, take on a bigger challenge, but we'll see if he sticks around as well. To the Mountain West, you made a bet on this one.
Yeah.
I just couldn't quite do it. These two played, and Boise State won pretty good, but that was in that bad period where Fresno State didn't have their quarterback.
Yeah.
They had a ton of injuries. Now, that being said, Boise State had just sort of benched their quarterback and sort of found their rhythm. I will say they ran for a ton of yards on that Fresno State defense, so that's where I'd probably lean Boise. But since Fresno has gotten sort of all their pieces back, I think offensively they've sort of found their rhythm, so I'm a little scared that Fresno might be the better team here, and it's just hard to judge off that game because it's basically a blackout. I don't bring anything into it. It was on the turf. It wasn't the same Fresno team that we're getting here, but you also, I think I'd be nervous to take Fresno just based on history here that Boise State basically kicks Fresno State's ass every single time. And like the only time Fresno State wins this game was when they played each other the game before the championship game, and basically Boise handed it to them and then kicked their ass in the championship game. So I just couldn't grab either side, but you're on Boise State here.
Yeah, I've got 300 on Boise State here. I think they're the better team. this being a home game for them, it's not a neutral site game for this championship game. They get to host Fresno, and they cover the spread, 75% of the time at home, more often than not.
The weather will also be in a play. I don't know if anybody's looked at a weather map, but it's about to be very cold and snowy.
Well, and you talked about Fresno playing better towards the end of the season. Boise's really kind of coming to their own too. They've looked more like the Boise of old the last 4 weeks of the season. So I'm really big on Boise State. I think at home, just the field goal spread, I think they get it done.
I will. If Boise can run on them like they did, this game will be over and it'll play out much like it was. If they can slow down that Boise running attack a little bit, this should be an interesting game. But like I said, I think weather also might come into play here. So that might be something to look at as well. Okay, the SEC Championship game. You made a play on this.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. 17.5 for Georgia. LSU looked really, really bad last week versus Texas A&M. I know
they lost to the worst team in the SEC.
I know everybody's trying to push the talent on Texas A&M, but I watched the talent on Texas A&M for the previous 11 games. It was not good, and it shouldn't have beaten LSU. But I think this is basically Georgia calls their number. If they want to cover it, they can cover it, and if they want to win, 2014. They can do that as well.
Yeah, I think Georgia's going to win big here. I just put $100 on it, but 17.5. I know that's large, but like you said, if they want to, they could win this game by 30. I think it falls somewhere between that, which will cover the spread. Dominance from Georgia here. Although I do know that LSU is like 5-1 as underdogs in championship games or something like that. I saw some stat, but this Georgia team is far and away the best team in college football, and I think they'll have no problem winning this one.
The other thing that might come into play a little bit here is, you think Georgia champion, but they actually haven't won the SEC in quite a while. Yeah. They did not win it last year. Alabama won the SEC last year. Yep. So they had a national championship sooner than they had an SEC championship. So maybe they want that trophy. We'll see if they come to play. Like I said, it's sort of one of those where they can sort of pick their score.
This is also another scary backdoor number as well.
Yes, that's the other thing. It does feel like maybe Georgia gets up 20-0 and packs it in. But maybe they run it up and embarrass LSU as well here. Next up, the AAC. One of these teams I think we thought would be here. I don't think either of us had the call for the other, but they've had a really, really good year. Another rematch from a game 3 or 4 weeks ago. When I was on the Central Florida side, you were on the Tulane side, but now we get the rematch. And I'm on the Tulane side on this one. I haven't liked the way Central Florida's closed out this season. Now, that being said, this Central Florida team, I think we talked about it on our Week 11 show. You never know what you're going to get. Yeah. You can get 56-12, and you can get 14-12 lose to Army. I just think Tulane wants this championship here. I like them, and the -4 on this one.
Yeah, Tulane obviously I think is the better team here, but like you said, good Central Florida shows up. Yeah. We may have a game here.
Yeah, it could be just like the one that was played a couple weeks ago.
It was enough to make me kind of want to stay away. I don't know. Maybe these players will get up for this game. I'm not a big fan of Gus Malzahn as the coach. I think everything I think says Tulane, but there was enough worry on UCF. I didn't want to bet this one.
Yeah, I wanted, it might be a little, I want Tulane to win this title, but I also just think they're the better team here, and I just didn't like what I saw from Central Florida close out the year. I feel like it might be a Tulane runaway here, so I'm going to be big on Tulane on this one on 500. The game I want no part of.
Yes.
I will say, I guess I have a lean towards UNC, but I'm not. The way UNC has closed out the season, I want no part of them. And certainly the way Clemson has closed out the season, I want no part of them. So Clemson -7.5. I don't even really know how to sort of handicap this game. I have no idea what I'm getting from either team. I'm not 100% who's playing quarterback for Clemson. I assume it's DJ. If you're keeping him in for what I saw last week, I assume you're keeping him in for the rest of the year. So I don't know. Honestly, this is an I don't know, and it was a first ballot cross-off.
Yeah, this one I didn't even think twice of. Scratched it off. Been burned by UNC too many times. I honestly would lean Clemson here, but I don't know if they have enough offense to score and cover a 7.5-point spread. So, yeah, not touching this one.
The only thing you can sort of say for Clemson is even in like last week's game, it was a 1-point game, and they fumbled 2 special team snaps. Their quarterback threw for under 100 yards and had 9 completions and 2 picks.
I still don't understand how this team beat Wake Forest.
Yes,
and we both said that if they had to play Florida State again now, they'd get killed.
It's just, who knows? Football. The better thing is, if Clemson had not fumbled that special team snap and driven down, they might be setting up for a playoff spot here. So deal with that with what you will on the committee and picking 4. I would prefer it to be the 4 best teams, not just the 4 big teams who have a good record.
Yeah.
Big Ten, Purdue, Michigan. We got another one here, 17 from Michigan. I just went Purdue because I think both styles sort of clash here, and I think it's a little bit like the Michigan game, was it 2 weeks ago, where both teams just sort of ran the ball into the line of scrimmage a little bit. I don't look for Michigan to hit the passing plays that they hit versus Ohio State. Purdue might not come out in a cover 0 every single play for some stupid reason. But nonetheless, I got Purdue plus 17. I thought 550 was worth a little bit of a shot on the money line. But honestly, I just play the spread here. I don't really think Purdue has much of a shot here versus Michigan. That whole side of the Big Ten is nowhere near the quality that, Michigan, Ohio State, even crappy Penn State is.
Yeah, I got Purdue plus the 17. I know their quarterback had that rough personal situation with his brother passing away. I don't think it really matters who's at quarterback on this Purdue. Like you said, this is going to be an ugly matchup, and Michigan, I think, will get it done. I don't know if I like the money line like you got, but 17's a lot here, and I don't know if Michigan. They got their big win last week. I think they just need a W here. I think even if they get a loss, well, I don't know. That may knock them out and put Ohio State back in. But I think they take care of business. But I like the 17. I threw $100 on it.
Yeah, I just thought the 17. If Purdue, which they've been able to do defensively, can maintain non-explosive plays, they could sort of stay attached here. I mean, other than that, I look for Michigan to win. I just thought the 6-1. A little bit of value if you think the game's going to be, 2010, 2013, something like that. And at least, a couple plays here or there for Purdue, and it gives you a shot at 6-1. It's more a value play than a actual, I think this is going to hit and we're going to make a lot of money type play. But 17 I will take. I just thought that was a little bit excessive for 2 teams who are basically just going to line up, run the ball, and run out the clock here. All right. Championship week, not as long a podcast show as you think. Handful of games, but we'll be back next week for sure to recap all our, picks, our percentages, our totals.
See how I did on futures.
Go over on our futures and maybe preview the bowls a little bit, at least talk about some maybe interesting matchups we see. I don't know if we'll do picks on them or not, but nonetheless, that's what we got coming up. We got a World Cup show coming up. Yep. You'll want to watch that as we get into the knockout stages. Achilles Rain will be in on Sunday for our live show to talk about the NFL. Starting to wind down that season, getting into some real sort of playoff matchups here. So that should be entertaining. Like, subscribe. That's our show, and we're out.
Greenlight Network presents Football Time.